You can get a copy of my free ebook, Technical Analysis Basics, with one click. There is a link in the description box down below. So maybe you're new to technical analysis or you've been using it a while. There's a series of articles in this book that'll get you using some more technical analysis tools pretty much right away. It's written for beginners to intermediate, super easy to use.
Hi everybody, this is Lara from Pure Elliott Wave. I'm working through my list of free analysis of markets that you voted for. Today we are doing XDC network. Coming up next after this, hopefully if I find the time tomorrow, will be bPro, and then finally Filecoin as a request from a subscriber. And then I'll be having a new list for you guys to vote on. So thank you so much for everyone who voted. It tells me what is most commonly requested, so my time is spent more efficiently. I like to be efficient when possible. This was my last analysis of bPro, and as I go through this, the software I'm using is Motive Wave, and I've got a couple of analysts in training, so I'm going to be explaining what I'm doing and how I'm using Motive Wave so they can pick up some tips. So if you've got Motive Wave, then hopefully this is helpful to you as well. You'll pick up some guides as to how to use Motive Wave for this analysis. This was my main wave count and this was my alternate. Obviously the main wave count was invalidated and the alternate is now correct. So I'm going to save this. So this is the primary analysis. You can't delete the primary analysis in your wave counts for Motive Wave. So I want my weekly alternate to now be the main. So File, Chart, Save As, and I'm going to save this as primary. Save. It says primary already exists. Yes, I want to overwrite it. Okay, so this is now my primary analysis, so that's how you do that. And I need to pull down the top and pull up the bottom, and I'm looking at this on a semi-log scale, which is correct on a weekly chart. So XDC network moved a little bit lower. It looks like it may have completed a double zigzag, and the first thing I notice is the current weekly candlestick, although we're only on Monday, so we cannot draw a conclusion. The last 2 weeks were completely outside and above this best fit channel that contains all of this bear market. So that's an indication that the bear market could be over. Squish this back up, or zoom out, as I've been told it should be said by my analyst in training, who that was funny. Okay, Jack, zoom out, and so this is going to be potentially my wave count. I'm going to save that. At the top here, this little paper icon, new analysis, base it on primary. I'm going to label this daily. I don't want it to be empty. I want it to be based on this analysis. Okay, now here it is on the daily. I'm going to zoom out to the weekly and just get rid of these elements because it changes how the chart sits, and pull my invalidation point up here so when I go back to daily I can see it. Okay, so it's down here. Now when you flick from one time frame weekly, you'll notice that my ends of my waves are snapped in correctly, but when you change to a different time frame now they're not, and this is one reason why I have my daily analysis and weekly etc on different workspaces as a different analysis within my wave counts and on my workspaces, so that it all fits better and it's all snapped correctly. I'm going to snap it back to here, and that's it. That's as far as I'm going to go. I've done the detail of intermediate A, intermediate B and C within primary W before, so now I'm going to focus on the detail within primary wave Y, and this channel is properly breached. So this was a session that closed above the channel. I'm just really quickly going to look at volume. I just want to know, did that session have support from volume? The breakout? Oh yes it did. Here it is. Yes it did. This is volume for that session. So an upward breakout above previous resistance on an upward session, closing above this trend line with push from volume, we can have confidence that that's a good breakout. Coming back to test support is absolutely normal behavior. You should expect to see that after a breakout. It looks like a low may be in place. I'm going to expand this out so that my candlesticks are filling my chart top to bottom, left to right, and move this over to the left. Let's have a look at the detail of intermediate A. I think this looks pretty good. I think this looks like an impulse. No, I would, okay, well I'd put 3 here. What could 4 be? 4 could be a triangle. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I'd have to go down to a lower time frame to see that one. I think probably best to see it over there, and 5 from here to here could be an impulse or a diagonal, possibly. You'd have to check that at lower time frames. But I think that looks okay. I think intermediate B looks like a zigzag. Nope, I can see A over here. This isn't a 5-wave impulse. A is extended, C is not. That's okay. Yeah, that's what I see. Intermediate C. This looks like a good impulse, and here's the middle of the 3rd wave, the strongest portion. I don't know if I want to put 1 there. No, I'm going to put 3 and 4 here and move 1 and 2 over to the left. And now 3 is an impulse. Yep, and the middle of it is perfect. That is really good. Okay, so I'm using a Mac, so when I go to decompose, I'm using control click. I think on Windows it's right click. And when I decompose a wave, I put my cursor over the line. So I want to decompose minor 5. So I click on one of these minor degree waves and I see the blue line. So I know I've selected minor degree. Control click or right click, decompose impulse. And then I almost always disagree with where Motive Wave puts the labels. So I put them in a different place myself. Okay, that's fine. I think that's enough detail, and I think it could be a complete impulse, and I see a bullish engulfing candlestick pattern here off the low. That's going to tentatively be my wave count. And to organise my charts, I always have the highest time frame on the left, work left to right, weekly, daily, and I put classic analysis last here. So this is my final chart for my daily. I'm going to now format this for publication. I don't normally do this on my YouTube video, but I'm going to leave this here for my analysts in training. I bring a line down to where I want my invalidation point to be, and I make it that color, which they've got the hex code for. And then I got this from commentary. It's one of these, the yellow note, one of those. The invalidation point should be 0.020318. And then I bring in an arrow, a direction arrow, to show the expected direction next for price. I make it that same blue and thickness 4. And I can see the first wave up here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's an impulse. And then possibly a double or single zigzag down for this back test of support. Beautifully, perfectly bouncing up off this trend line. And now we've got a few days of clearly upward movement, moving up and away from support. Now this doesn't mean that this invalidation point cannot be breached. As soon as you say the market can't do something, it's invariably going to prove you wrong. So I would have to also develop an alternate, which would be bearish, but what price point can we have confidence in? I think it would be, in this wave count, I think it would be a new major high above 0.033124. So I'm going to bring in a note. A new swing high above that point, from a classic analysis point of view, tells us that the series of lower lows and lower highs, which is the basic definition of a downward trend, has been broken. Then we would have a higher high if we see a new high above 0.033124. From an Elliott Wave point of view, it means that we can't just move the degree of labelling within intermediate C down 1 degree and see only minor wave 1 over here, because minor 2 may not move beyond the start of 1 above 0.033124. So a new high above that point from a classic point of view and an Elliott Wave point of view would tell us it's extremely likely then that this low back here is going to be sustained for the long term. So that's an important price point for us to have confidence in this wave count. I'm just going to put a little bit of labels in here. I think I want to get that impulse that I see here labelled. Let's just get that out of the way. Go back to daily. Yeah, I'll have primary one over here. Let's assume it's most likely to be an impulse. Align my labels along the direction arrow. I'm making sure when I click and drag them, I'm clicking on the little green dot, not like that. If you do that, undo that. You want to click and drag on the little green dot to move the labels. I think this could be a minor degree of wave over up here. I'll have to be open to moving that down 1 degree though, and that is the hardest part of labelling a start of a new trend, what degree to label it. Nope, I think 4 needs to be snapped on the low of that candlestick, and I think 1 needs to be snapped on the high of that candlestick. I'm going to put some labels in for 2, and I just want to check, has B moved beyond the start of A? What's this high? 0.02819, and this high? 0.0822, 0.0282. So no, B did not move beyond the start of A. I'm just a little concerned that C actually looks like a 3-wave structure. I think this is more likely a double zigzag like that. Okay, I'm happy with that. Just pull the top down so I can see the high here. I'm not going to be able to calculate a target for primary wave 1 until intermediate 4 within it is complete. When I highlight 1, I have 3 numbers here. The first number is the price point. The second number in brackets is the length of the wave from the high to the low. And the third number is the period or duration. This is a daily chart, so it's 14 bars, so it's 14 days. Classic analysis. On the weekly chart, at this low, there is a morning doji star reversal pattern. Price did close below this previous low, which is 0.022356, but it didn't stay there only for 2 weeks. It didn't stay there long, and it's moved up a lot higher now. Excuse me, I've had a cold and I've been talking too much today, so let's make this short. At this previous low in June 2022, the first weekly candlestick up off that low did not have support from volume, but this one, it does. Volume has increased in the positive week up off the low. It is higher than the previous downward week. It's not by a lot, but it doesn't have to be. It is an increase, and so the upward week did have support from volume. The following week we saw a follow through with a greater support from volume. That's really good to see. On balance volume gave us a bearish signal back here. I don't like using motive wave for this because that box cannot be removed. So, okay, a break below support. On balance volume made a slightly lower low. There's no divergence. ADX is declining, no clear trend. RSI, money flow, all neutral. ATR is declining and is quite flat as price moves lower. That's normal to see for the end of a bear market for cryptocurrencies, and stochastics is neutral. So price reached support, stochastics reached oversold, price is moving up higher, stochastics is neutral. Let's expect, if this isn't a trend change, if it's an upward swing, let's expect it to continue, and I think let's expect it to continue until it reaches resistance. A new swing high above 0.033124 would be a break of the series of lower lows and lower highs, which is a basic definition of a bearish movement. That would be a strong indication that this low may be sustained. Here is the low of the 7th of December. The 8th of December was a bullish engulfing candlestick pattern. It did not have support from volume. On the daily chart, it does on the weekly chart though, the bullish reversal pattern. So this is not a big cause for concern, it is a small cause for concern, because I've note for cryptocurrencies previous sustained lows, if they do have bullish reversal patterns, they don't always have support from volume. It's really good to see. When it happens, you can have more confidence, but for these markets, it doesn't eliminate the possibility. We do have some push from volume in these upward sessions, through here and into here. And that break above the resistance line did have push from volume as well, remember. The short-term volume profile remains bullish, but I would be expecting possibly another pullback coming up as overall volume is declining as price moves higher. On balance, volume is constrained below resistance and above support. A breakout of this small range would give a signal, no signal yet. It made lows with price, doesn't appear to have exhibited no divergence. ADX is declining at both time frames. At the daily chart time frame, the positive DX line is crossed above the negative. They've been whipsawing though as ADX declines. If ADX turns up, it would indicate an upward trend, but for now, no clear trend. RSI reached fairly deeply oversold on the daily chart at the low for the 7th of December. There was no real bullish divergence, possibly very slightly, not enough to note. Money flow index also just barely reached oversold, did exhibit bullish divergence from the low back in July to December. There was some longer term bullish divergence for money flow index. ATR upward movement, increasing ATR, downward movement, declining ATR. Volatility at the moment is to the upside. That's bullish. And stochastics is neutral. It reached oversold. At this pullback here, it's in neutral territory. Let's expect price to overall move higher for the short term and see what happens when it gets to resistance. The bottom line for me, for this wave count and this analysis, is that this trend line has been breached and is now providing support. This supports the view that this low may be sustained, and there is some support from classic analysis. There is a bullish candlestick reversal pattern on both the daily and weekly chart level with support from volume on the weekly chart. So that's my preferred analysis for XDC network. It's quite bullish. I think this one may have finally found its low. That's all from me with an updated analysis for you. I hope you've learned something from Motive Wave. Thank you so much for watching. If you've made it to the end, well done. I don't know why people watch these videos all the way through. I hope you've learned something from me today. That's my aim, to teach you something new every day. And if you've got Motive Wave, those were a couple of tips on how I use it. There's a lot more to it. If you have any questions about how to use Motive Wave, ask them in the comments underneath this video and I'll do my best to answer. Thank you so much for your support.